Welcome back to the Hats We Wear. Today, I am thrilled to have Karen DeLoach join me. She's going to talk about the hats she wears, the joys and the struggles of those hats, and how she's navigated through them. So welcome, Karen. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Of course. So tell me what hats you're wearing right now.
Well, it's funny because the joke between my husband and I is I only think I can multitask. But when you've been a wife and mother and business owner, it's a lot of hats you're wearing all the time. So
Mhm.
now I'm at the age where my children are grown. We have an empty nest for the first time, and I've been able to focus more on my business, but it still seems, because I'm an artist and an art teacher and have been for decades, and was a homeschool mom and worked in the homeschool world for 30 years.
Oh,
And
interesting.
my children are always saying, "Remember this, mom? Remember that?" I'm like, "No, don't you understand? Those 30 years are a great big blur."
Oh my gosh, for 30 years. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, but parented and homeschooled four children, and so for a long time you don't see light at the end of the tunnel, and you just get through each day. And that's what you're talking to your listeners about. How do you get through each day when it just seems like a never ending thing? And I kept thinking, sleep will come later. I even when I was homeschooling, I was nursing. We had a child in our 40s. So after three boys, we were finally blessed with a little girl, and that kind of changed our lives, all of our lives, back to newborn and nursing. And she nursed for 3 years. So while I was doing all of these things, I was raising a new baby, and she's just been a joy. So anyway, I say all that because I want to encourage everyone. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Parenting, of course, is a huge thing for us, especially, most of the burden, especially at first, falls on the women. Any way you cut it, it's mostly us, especially if you're nursing, in which I nursed my daughter 3 years. So that was that. And, doing anything else sometimes felt like such a burden, even, cooking dinner, going shopping. And I remember the days before super Walmart type of stores where you were literally going store to store to store, getting them in and out of car seats, and just dreaming about being able to have them all in a cart and do all your shopping one stop.
Yes.
Count that as a blessing, or you can order ahead of time. All kinds of options today that help us working moms, because I've always been a working mom. Part of it is I love what I do, and being an artist and an art teacher. When I raised my children, finished, then I could go back and teach in college, which took me out of the home more. And I found very quickly, I'm in South Carolina, which is a much more rural state than your home state of New York.
Mhm.
And I found my students weren't responding well to the textbooks that were prescribed to them, including, because most art history and appreciation textbooks are written by art history people, majors, even doctorates. And my students are probably never going to take another art class in their life, most of them. They've
Mhm.
never had one before. They haven't even been to a gallery before, a museum, art museum before. And so in 2020, when sent all of us home, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wrote a textbook for that class, specifically geared towards students that I knew needed to be exposed to the beauty of art, and yet, didn't even know where to start. So that was a love project, a real big project of love, and it ended up being 630 pages, 1,800 images, because some of them are never going to read the book, but maybe they'll at least look at the pictures. And
Yeah.
that was a huge deal. I couldn't have done that when I was still raising my family, in homeschooling. I would not have been able to do that task. So you kind of have sequential tasks in your life, as you feel like right now I'm wearing wife, mother, if you're homeschooling, or even I remember the years it felt like I'm really just a chauffeur, taking all these children here and there and everywhere.
Yeah.
And the joke is homeschoolers are never home. They always have classes. We had co-ops. I was always a teacher in the co-op. And, those are all, really everything you do for them, right? I never met a selfish homeschooler, because you're just pouring your life into your children, which every parent does in every way that is best for you and your family. And so becoming an author wasn't on my radar, in those busy years. And it took a lot of effort. Matter of fact, this year we just came out with the second edition, which is an ebook and has all these beautiful technical links that connect it to art that couldn't go in the book. And the quizzes are right in the book. I love modern
Nice.
technology, but
Nice.
all of these are other hats we have to wear.
Yeah.
And learning to be an online entrepreneur, bringing my business
Mhm.
online means you got to learn Zoom, and you've got to, got to have a website, and you have to learn how to market and sell. And all of these things are all these new things and it seems like, okay, marketing was not a hat I ever wore
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. I can understand that because I'm going through the same thing. Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like, what?
Mhm.
They didn't have any classes in art school for marketing. No, not even in film school. I went to film school too. In my 50s, went to film school while I was still homeschooling, and I was artist in residence in Charleston. Going to schools all over the place was a wild time. I thought, you know what? I'll sleep after this is over. And then when I'm preparing for a big show, there's always a whole bunch of work to do. And I would think, they're asleep. This is when I can work. This is when I can do my stuff. So I don't know if I did it the most healthy way, but
So that was going to be my question. So you worked out of the home during those years you were homeschooling your kids?
yeah, except, sometimes I taught in schools. Sometimes I taught when we did co-ops, but I have a home studio. So I worked
Okay.
the children, small groups of children, to my studio. But when the classes were getting bigger and we're doing co-ops, we'd rent a location, usually church, family halls and stuff like that, to do courses and trade courses with each other. Like I had to trade out all the sciences and high school labs and
Yeah.
languages and even PE, which is a group thing. You need a group to do. And we cut in that first wave of homeschoolers, and now there's so many options for homeschooling. It's fabulous. And you find out what each child. We're a very artsy family, and my sons are all musicians and
Okay.
writers and artists, and my daughter. So we didn't fit real well into the standard left brain school
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
And that was really a better option, not because they were so brilliant, but of course that my children are brilliant, but they weren't doing well academically, even in private school. So bringing them home really was their best option to thrive. And now they're adults, and they're working their lives around their giftings. And it's gratifying as a mom, to see that happening for them, living beautiful lives. And they brought me some wonderful grandchildren.
Nice.
Another hat
How,
to wear, right?
how old were your kids when you decided to homeschool them? When did you realize it wasn't working?
Well, I was a single mom with two little boys, and they went to private school.
Okay.
I worked really hard to put them in a Christian school, because our schools are not great in our state. I'll be honest. It's like
Mhm.
usually at the bottom. Some years we say, thank God for Mississippi, the only state worse than ours. But it wasn't a good choice for us.
Okay.
And I sacrificed, worked hard, painted houses. I mean, I just finished my master's, and I ended up painting houses because that's what I could get the most money for at that time.
Mhm.
You do what you got to do, right?
Yeah,
When
you
you're,
do. Yeah, you
when you,
do.
and then, yeah. Then when I remarried, we had two children also. My second son is, nowadays he'd be labeled, ADD, but it was very obvious. He was struggling in school because
Yeah.
he's so distractible. Oh,
Yeah.
shiny. I don't know where I got
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So you had to learn how to make it a superpower, right?
That's exactly right. Instead
Yeah.
of, but in a school setting, they don't have a space for children with different kinds of needs.
Yeah.
And we brought him home. He begged me. And I decided, well, if I'm going to bring him, I bring your older brother, who was like, what? My social kid was
Oh,
freaked out. He could do
yeah.
school in 2 hours and be done. Ryan, on the other hand, a desk is just someplace you put the books. I think of Ferdinand the Bull. Remember that book?
Mhm.
He had flowers in his hair. He
Yeah.
just couldn't be bothered. He's still my joy boy. I mean, he's 39 now and has his own little girl he's
Mhm.
raising with his wife, and she's an artist. Interestingly enough, he's written some books, and they live a wonderful life in Germany. That's where my boys
Oh,
ended up
okay.
finding wives and places to, produce their music.
Yeah.
And I have to go there to go see my grands.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's another hat too, a grandmother hat. I love my
Uh,
grandmother hat.
oh, you
It's
don't
the
look
best
old
hat.
enough to be a grandmother.
Oh yeah, I am. Absolutely. It's so much fun though. Oh my gosh.
That's the
Yeah.
reward, see, for all your hard work raising children.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm wondering about the how your art, like how you came to wear the hat of an artist. Were you an artist from a young age? Did you always love art? Did you come into it later in life, or how did later in life meaning like your 20s? Because I know you said it's pretty much been who you are. But were you always? Because I have an older sister who is an artist, and she is an artist in every way. Um, and she loved it from a very, very young age. She loved to draw, she loved to color, she loved to paint. Me, not so much. So I'm interested in how you came into that hat.
That's a great question because it wasn't something that I knew, the first 10 years of my life. And probably even a while after that, I was a very athletic child. And my father was in the Marine Corps, so we moved, and athletics was really important in the children. They based some national programs on us. So we got to kind of be their guinea pigs, and I loved it. I loved working my body hard. And I'm still an exercise girl. I'd rather do that than diet. But I didn't know the world of art, but my parents were really good. Everywhere we moved, they'd take us to the museums and galleries. And I got exposed to art. Well, when my father, we were in New Jersey, living in New Jersey, and our school got to go to the World's Fair in Manhattan. And one of the exhibits was Michelangelo's Pietà. They had brought it from Rome, from the Vatican, over the ocean to New York City. And I stood in front of that sculpture with my mouth opened, saying, how in the world could a human being do that out of marble? Even at 10 years old, I knew that this was a masterpiece beyond compare, that you could see the veins in his hands, the holes. You could see the expression on Mary's face. And I wasn't raised in a Christian home, so I didn't know really the spiritual significance, but it hit me spiritually in a way that I couldn't have any language for. The
Mm.
beauty of that piece created out of one piece of marble by a 26, 27-year-old man. Matter of fact, when it was finished, there's a band across Mary's chest, and Michelangelo heard people saying, there's no way that young man could have done this. And it's the only piece of art. He went back and he carved his name across that banner. It's the only piece he signed. But I don't think he surpassed it with the Sistine Chapel or any other of his masterpieces till the end of his life, when he was carving these slave forms out of marble and left them undone with you to interpret. But this was the opposite. This beauty of this marble, it ignited my artistic heart in a way that I've never gotten over.
Wow,
That
that's cool.
looking at beauty, looking at art, and when I went to art school, it was a really toss up. Theater was I was always directing plays in the backyard too.
Hmm.
It was really hard. So I went to a fine arts college where I could do theater, I could do physical education, and I played soccer for the college team, and still be an art major. And I did well, had great drawing instructors. I'd had some great drawing teachers, and I learned how to draw. I wasn't naturally gifted. But when it got to painting, now this is the abstract expressionist era. I already told you I love, people, and I love it to look like what it's supposed to look like. I love nature. And that was not okay with any of I had 5 different painting teachers all describe my paintings with 4-letter words. And it shut me down completely. And this has set me on a journey that I have a passion for now in my business, because of that. It stifled my creative career for the next 20 years. I couldn't finish a painting. I kind of came
Wow.
into agreement that I'm a terrible artist. But so they sent me to three-dimensional. So I got my master's in ceramics and art history, because I still love looking at art. And I traveled, married, military, traveled, and looked at art all over and created. I couldn't finish a painting until I got a mentor, somebody that could teach me how to paint so that my skills could match my vision.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I could get healing for that right brain woundedness. And I've studied now about in neural arts what happens to the brain. We are so rewarded with left brain thinking, and that's what I was talking about, having to bring my children home to homeschool because they weren't thriving in that very rewarded left brain world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And realizing that this part of us, like when you ask a room full of 5-year-olds, do you like to draw, paint, color, dance, beat the drums, sing? Almost every single one will say yes, they like to do something creative.
Mhm.
But you ask a room of 15-year-olds that same question, maybe 10% say yes while they're listening to Led Zeppelin on their earbuds, music from my generation.
Mhm.
What happened in those 10 years is an educational disaster that squashed that sensitive, intuitive, imaginative right brain. And unless they had some special teachers along the way that nurtured the
Mhm.
creativity that is latent in every human being, it's there, it's in all of us. And I love to work with adults now, and I just see so many people just blossom under some tutoring as they discover this creative part of them, whether they ever thought of themselves as an artist or not. They can find some way to express and nurture that creative right side, because when you do that, the right brain and left brain start working together,
Yeah.
creating all these neural pathways which make you a better creative thinker, outside of the box thinker, problem solver. And the left brain was really originally created to serve the left brain was created to serve the right brain, because when you're in your right brain, you're not thinking about time. You're so focused on what you're doing. So it's really good for people with focus issues. It's good for brain fog or people really struggling with any kind of mental or emotional issues. Getting in touch with their right brain, stirring that up, having the creative blossom inside of them. And it could be something as simple as looking at a beautiful sunset and just embracing that beauty that they're seeing. It actually, now scientists say, releases serotonin and makes you happy. That's the happiness chemical. And it's a scientific fact that art is healing, and it's good for you. So that's kind of one of the main hats I'm working with now is besides trying to figure out how to market it, how to create programs and work with people to stir up their creative so that they can find their great fulfillment, and especially for those of us at this stage in life where we have finished raising our children, we have a little more time to really put into ourselves, because I
Yeah.
don't know very many women that haven't just poured their lives out to their families, their husbands or families, and whatever work they have done, they've given it their all. That's just their natures. And now it's like, what can I do that can you really make these golden years for real? What part
Yeah.
of myself needs expression and healing? And I love to see that happen over and over and over again. It never
You
gets
know,
old.
and I think so what's going through my mind is I never considered myself creative until I reframed what creativity means, because I was not gifted at drawing. I didn't, I wasn't, and so everything that my sister was good at, I wasn't. So I figured, okay, well, she's creative, she's artsy, so I'm not, because I'm not like that. Not realizing that creativity comes in so many different packages, and it's just a different way of thinking. And I love that you just mentioned watching a sunset, because I was just working on an article that I'm going to be giving out, and I was talking about ways to quiet the mind, and one of them was taking a walk and noticing the pretty colors that the leaves are changing, and just being present and being mindful. And I'm finding that I was an educator for 17 years, and I was one that always wanted to give kids the option of whatever they want, however they wanted to show me what they learned, go for it. And I had a lot of them that definitely chose the artistic side. And even if it was through their writing, it was through drawing, it was through music, it was through videotaping a dance, it was through making a play. So I think people don't realize that creativity is woven through everything that we do, really. We just don't realize it. And I know I didn't
Well,
until.
here you are creating your own podcast show. My goodness. I
Yeah,
mean, that is highly creative. You're making something from nothing, which is basically what creativity is, however it
exactly.
manifests. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think a lot don't realize that. And I know I didn't because I was so stuck in my left brain and thinking that it was only either left or right. There's no blending, and there's so much is. So
Absolutely.
I love that you brought that out.
You know, my husband and I are ministers too, and we've spent a career working with people, helping them getting over things that happened in their childhood in one way or another, a lot of trauma and abuse and things that just don't go away. You could stuff them, you can hide them, put them in closets, but they don't go away. And here you are, an adult, and it's manifested maybe in some kind of addiction, or it's breaking relationships up, and being able to help people find the way to express their pain and bring it and let it loose and let go of these painful things and traumas. And, you know, walking, like you said, walking, being mindful of the beauty around you is a way to get outside of yourself. And, you know, what I try to create and what I learned from my experience of being so rejected by my art professors is I create a safe space of no criticism, no judgment, because that's left brain, hello, and our sensitive right brain does not thrive under criticism, judgment, pressure, stress. It's released through permission to be able to make mistakes, you know, get out from under the paralysis of perfectionism and
Hmm.
performance and product. And so when I teach drawing, you can't even look at your paper at first. When we start learning to draw, it's you know, you can't look at your paper because it can't be about the product. It's about eye-hand coordination. I didn't know my athletic upbringing was going to be able to help me be good at drawing, be good at portraits and stuff. So you create this place, and you can do it for yourself, because we all have that right brain creativity in us, where there's, you know, choosing no judgment, no criticism, and no perfectionism. Give yourself permission to not be great at it at first. Just like if you try to play the piano, you had to learn how to where your fingers go before you could ever make a song. I
Yeah.
watched my sons, you know, learning to play their guitars and their drum. You know, it's a learning process, and there's a place to just enjoy the process itself. And if you're writing, you know, having written now 3 books, you don't edit while you're writing. Guess which side of the brain editing is?
Just get it out. Yep, just get that out. Get it
Lay
out
it
and
out
take it
there.
clean
Editing
after.
can come later.
Mhm.
Hello,
Yeah.
spell check. But you know, at first, just get it out, release it. And a lot of people journal because it's a kind of a safe space they create for writing. Yeah, it's beautiful to do that, and it's important to do that. And you know, all those years where you're wearing all the hats of being a mother, working, being a wife, you know, all those things, you don't feel like you fit in there anywhere. But
Yeah.
here's what I also found out through neurosurgery, I mean, arts, is it 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, or 15 to 20 minutes a day. It may be, you know, combining your exercise, just making a point of looking around, enjoying, like you said, the colors changing. But you're releasing whatever is stressful laying on your shoulders, you know, as you just kind of throw it off, you know, as you're taking that walk. Um, Whatever distress, emotional distress, or distractions, wounds, frustrations, just laying it all down. Self doubt, you know, all these things that hinder us and keep us from really thriving and creating our best life, finding our purpose.
Mhm.
You know, I'm convinced that it can't happen without stirring up and really igniting that half of our brain that we've neglected. You know, even saying, "I'm sorry, right brain, I'm gonna let you have your voice,"
Oh,
because that's the place where imagination comes and intuition comes. That still small voice of God is there inside of us, and we hear it. Most of us don't hear the voice of God with our ears, but there might be that little voice that just pops up. Guess
mhm,
what side of the brain it's coming to? And
mhm.
you can practice listening. You know, I know people do yoga, meditation, all kinds of ways, not just Christianity like I do, but you can find that fulfillment because it is touching the heart of God. And we moms, we women with our many hats, we've got to take care of ourselves too. Just like they tell you on airplanes, you know, put the air on yourself before you put it on your
Yes.
children.
Put the
It goes
mask
so
on first. Yeah.
contrary. Yeah, it goes so contrary to our nature. When I was teaching in my studio, and family came in, mother brought her children, I always gave place and offered for them to participate with us for free, because they wouldn't pay for themselves, but they'd pay for their kids. I can't tell you how many moms I discovered. They're still my lifelong friends that discovered their own creative expression being released in them. And, it's just beautiful to see when they didn't mean to have it be for them too, but it did change their lives too. And that's part of the joy I get to experience. Because I love people. I love, I'm drawn to my generation. I'm a baby boomer, and we
Yeah.
got a life left in us. We've poured ourselves out to our families and our jobs and our church, and now it's like, okay, what's now? What's next for us? And just like you, starting as a grandma, you're starting this podcast. I'm so blessed to know you. That you are making this choice to help others, and I wish you, bless you with great success with it. That it really bring fulfillment for you and your family and for others that you touch through it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's just part of, I stepped away from teaching after 17 years and started my own business as an educational consultant and a neurotransformational coach. So when
Wow.
you were talking about the coaching that you do, it resonates with me because that's what I want to do as well, and what I am doing. But the podcast was just a way of, I figured out my values. I did a values exercise, and one of my values is connection. So I figured, okay, how am I going to connect to people? And I said, let me try podcasts and see how that works. But seriously, and now it's like it's a major part. I mean, I'm really busy with it. So, but yeah, I understand. And I want to hear a little bit more about how you navigated through the hats of your business, and still are navigating with the marketing and all that, because there are a lot of people listening that are entrepreneurs as well. And it's a lot. There's a lot going on. So how do you navigate and handle the juggling of those hats?
Well, I'll be honest. I've paid for help. I haven't done it alone. I just, when I was saying, okay, I don't have a thing about marketing. I don't know a thing about sales. I know a little bit about online, since I've been teaching online now for 6 years. Which is hard with the visual arts courses to do online. I learned how to do that. Now just finding out all the other things you have to learn, you have to create a book that free giveaways. And I'm used to giving away. It's harder to get the nerve up to ask people to pay me. That's been harder, but
I feel you there. Yep.
but it's got to happen, because
Yeah.
what you're doing is worth it. You're helping people. It's worth it. It's just getting that to come out. And I had to pay for mentorship. I went to a company that taught me, helped me get my website up, www.KarenDeLoachArt.com. You can see some of my art there and get my free book, which is Art as Self-Therapy, Wellness Through Creativity. And I give 5 tips away of getting a healthier soul, which is what we're talking about: your mind, your will, and your emotions, and getting them to work together and be healthy, be wholly healthy. And this is a piece that I get to bring to the table. I asked God one time, what's my superpower? And just clear as a bell, kind of heard stirring up the creative in others. So, all right, well, how do you market that? What does that result look like for someone? And I work with people in 12-week segments, and they choose the schedule 3 to 5 times a week in 15 to 20-minute increments. And whatever their goal is, we start with getting what their goals are, what they're looking to have happen for their life, then legacy, purpose, direction, really being able to let go of traumas and disappointments and regrets, and just embrace now. We don't have then, we don't even have to, we have now. Embrace now. And what does that look like for you? What's stirring in your heart right now that you want to do and be, that you still have time for?
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
lives are still rich just because our children are raised and our careers have peaked in one way or another. Maybe
Yeah.
we're still working, but this younger generation is coming up. AI is coming up, and there's no way we're going to compete with AI with our left brain. They can do things with our left brains we have not figured out how to do by ourselves. But with your right brain, AI will never replace your soul. Will
I
never
love that.
replace
Yeah,
spirit.
you're
Never.
absolutely right. Yep.
And you're invaluable. You're absolutely uniquely people are like, well, there's enough musicians, there's enough artists. There's never enough. There's
No.
plenty of room on our arts and entertainment mountain because we're so unique. We got 10 different fingerprints on all of us. All 7.5 billion of us have 10 different. I mean, that's creativity. I mean, come on, that's creativity. There's room for all of us. There's something you bring no one else can bring. And so in those 3 to 5 times a week, it's really up to each of my clients how many times they see me. I stir them up and hold them accountable and set them on path with if they need training or teaching, mentoring, and what works and what they're going to do, and hold them accountable, because then you can start creating a habit of feeding your right brain, feeding your own soul with life and joy and peace and beauty and fulfillment, and laying down perfectionism, laying down self-doubt, laying down all the stresses and cortisol issues that have got people so tied up in knots, and release yourself to this creative walk. And people say all the time, I can't draw a stick figure, I can't draw a straight line. Well, you know what? If I need to draw a straight line, I use a ruler just like normal people. But, there's nothing wrong with stick figures either. It's what is your expectation? And I do have techniques because I had great teachers. I learned how to draw. I learned how to paint, and I can teach people if they want to learn to draw, I can teach them. I have books on it. If they want to learn to paint, I can teach them. I can do that really easily, but I also can stir up what is in them. What is in you? What is it you want with this part of your life? Because we still are all wearing lots of hats, especially if we're still married. If now we have grandchildren, like you said, now you're wearing a fun hat, a fun grandchild hat. And so the hats do change as the generations go by. And we women, we do have more connections. It's a neurological fact that when baby boys are in vitro, there's a lot of connections between left and right hemispheres that are disconnected. I mean, and they're growing all the time. We start out with more, but how many women have been stirring the pot, rocking the baby, feeding the dog, and, you're just doing all of this at once, answering the phone, usually a phone. I remember when it was a long cord and I could just get to the laundry room with my 25-foot cord, that we ended up
Exactly.
knots, and unknot it.
I remember very, very well trying to get privacy on that darn phone. How far can I reach? Can I get to the bathroom and close the door?
I mean, you got privacy in the bathroom. That was good.
It was only one bathroom though, so that was a problem.
Oh, yeah. Somebody always has to use it too, but yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I admit I admire women. I admire the incredible hearts of women who love, and give to their
Mhm.
families and give to their employers. They give everything
Give to
they
everybody
have.
but except themselves. Yeah.
Mhm. And I'd love to be able to be a component that says, you know what, it's time for me to invest some more in myself. And, I've been doing that with, like you said, how are we doing this? I've found mentors with helping me with different aspects of marketing, because like you probably found out, there's not one way to market. There's oh my God, there's a plethora of marketing ways. And for
Yeah.
me, and podcasts are new to me too. I've just started, doing podcasts, but as teachers, we love to teach, don't we? We love to share what we've
Yeah.
learned.
And
And
it's a way to connect with people that you wouldn't normally connect with. And I'm just learning with the people that I've met that I don't know, because I went through quite a few, friends and whatnot, when I first started. But the people that I haven't known, I've just found so much connection that we are all so much more similar than we are different,
that's
from all around the world and different languages, where there's, someone's got an accent, and it just is so cool to just meet different people, and I'm connecting on such a really neat level, spiritual level. with people that just are like, most of them are like-minded. It's really interesting how, the energy is given out, and that's, I'm pulling in the people that I'm meant to pull in to interview in this. So, are there any other hats that you're looking to try on, or are you good at this time?
Well, another hat I've been wearing because I have little German grandbabies is I've been taking German. And, ich spreche Deutsch. Ich muss Deutsch Praxis in Deutschland, wenn ich gehe in Dezember. So I'm planning a
Very
trip.
good.
And I've got another coach that I connected with in my marketing program, and we're doing a workshop together in London. So on my way to Germany, I'm going to London for a 3-day workshop in December, where we're going to combine some teaching and an art project. So we're going to do vision boards. We're going to talk about letting go of 23, 22, 20, all this, and then embracing purpose. And then so right now I'm working on finding people that want to watch it online live while we're doing it. And I'm going to bring my daughters-in-law from Germany, so I'll have my Deutsche daughters-in-law with me, and they'll get to be without their babies for about 5 days. Anyway,
Nice.
my sons get to be full-time dads, and then we'll go to Germany together, and I'll get to be grandma, wear that grandma hat. So yeah, that's another part of my day. Every day is learning German. So it's like, okay, here's my German, have my devotions with my husband. Now I'm putting on my German hat, and now I'm going to go and I'm going to find other podcasts to be on. I'm going to find out, who else wants to, stir up, have their creativity stirred up, and other ways to be building a business. Check my group on Facebook, because I've got a big group on Facebook, on Facebook, and a private group, and I have a public business online that I feed and nurture every day. And then there's LinkedIn, learning how to do LinkedIn, and every one of these is like another hat, another thing that we learn. And then there's the pay systems, and every one of these categories, from finding people to talk to, finding platforms to talk on, finding ways to get your message out there, and then ways to connect with people, and then have free things that you can give them to nurture them, and hopefully that'll inspire them to want to work with you more, and you talk to them and bring them into your programs, whether they're for one-on-one or group. And then a way to pay. It feels sometimes like an endless list.
It is. And I found this weekend I was exhausted, because there's been so much mental energy that I've been spending on my business, but it's fun. I'm enjoying every second of it. And even when I'm frustrated and tired, I still love it. But yeah, it's exhausting. There's so much to do. And when I get to the point where I can hire people, I absolutely will. But I like having a basic understanding of all of it, so that I know what's supposed to happen. And when I hire someone, I'll know if something's wrong, something's not going right. So I have already written down your website. So I've got that. Is there any other place? Because I'll put a link in the show notes so that people can click and get right to your website. But is there anything else? You mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned something, Facebook.
Yeah,
I do on
Karen
Facebook?
DeLoach. Yeah, Karen DeLoach. I'm on Facebook. I have Karen DeLoach Art at yahoo.com. KarenDeLoachArt.com is my website. www.KarenDeLoachArt.com. And then my email is KarenDeLoachArt@gmail.com. So we're trying to have a little theme here. These are also.
I did the same thing. Make it consistent. Yeah, so people can find you. It's the same exact header. It's just at gmail.com or .com. I get it. Yeah. Yeah. And then your Facebook, is that Karen DeLoach Art as well, or is that just Karen?
Yeah. You can find me as Karen DeLoach or Karen DeLoach Art. But do you find that you feel that you get done what you need to do every day, or that you leave things on the table every day? I mean, is it hard to feel that way, that you've lay down without the hat still on?
Oh, it's hard. It's hard. But I purposefully, and my Calendly, I have specific days for the podcast and specific days for client coaching. So that I know, okay, on Tuesday, I only have podcasts, so I can just focus on that. And in between, work on whatever I need to work on. Like the right before you, I had a podcast, the person didn't show. So I was able to get into the article that I'm writing and work on that. So I just know I have an idea of what I need to do, and I just kind of plug in where I can. I'm trying to get better at scheduling myself, where I know between this time and this time, this is what I'm going to work on. That's a struggle. Yeah, exactly what you're showing me for the listener. She's showing me her scheduler. Yeah. And I did that as a teacher, so I should know to do that. Um,
But
you
you
know,
still get to leave the kids at home. I mean, you leave the kids
yeah.
at school when you have, a
Yeah,
certain
I did
time.
that for 17 years. You think I would know time management better, but this is just so new. So, you know, but yeah, it's a constant balancing act. And being I'm myself, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and an entrepreneur. So
And grandmother
and grandmother. Yeah. Yeah.
and writer.
Yeah. All the hats.
Yeah, they just
All the
lots of
hats.
them. That's right. And
Yeah.
and and I schedule my exercise time every day. It's as important to me as my devotions or anything else that I'm doing and practicing my German. I'm excited to get to go use it,
Yeah.
but it's another hat in my life. And it's important to lay it down early enough that you can sleep, because sleep is really, really
Oh,
important.
I definitely do. Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. It's, I've only stepped away from it. This was my last school year. So June was really when I kicked in with the business. So it's only been a few months. So I'm learning, as I go, how to balance better. And because I could always be doing something. I could have my computer open 24/7 and working on something, but that's not helping me, and it's not good for me. It's not good for my relationship with my husband. So I'm definitely learning that balance and
Balance and boundaries, that you
yeah.
can't let your business take over your life. I give my cell phone number to my students because I can't help it. That's my little grandson. Yeah. So
Oh,
I
you.
I make them send me selfies, because even though they're online, I like to put a face with the name. I'm a visual artist, and they can connect me. I like to feel connected more than email can do. And people think I'm crazy. I just delete them after the semester's over, but I like them to be able to get a hold of me if they have a need. And that I appreciate that kind of mentoring too, that when I work with my students or clients, that they can reach me, they can get these answers, that
Support.
you're
Yeah,
paying for
you
my
want to be there as
mentoring
the
time.
support. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And balance, you're talking about, and that's what we're talking about with the left brain, right brain. And, recognizing how we've developed and nurtured and been paid for our left brain. And yet you as a teacher learned how to connect then and incorporate the creative in with your students. I'm sure you were a fantastic teacher, especially since you allowed your creative students to do that. That was more work for you. It's much easier if I didn't have my students having to do hands-on assignments that I have to check and grade every single one of those. The computer can't just say, yes, yes, no, no, right, right,
Right.
yeah, and ding,
Mhm.
it's done.
Yeah.
That'd be easy, but you
Mhm.
didn't choose the easy way. You chose the challenging, more creative,
What's
but
best for them.
how
Yeah.
beneficial for your
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
I congratulate you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So any last words that you'd like to, anything else on your mind that you want to leave with?
The other thing is, understand what hats aren't yours to
Mm,
wear.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes we women will pick up hats that aren't ours. We have to lay our children once they're grown and go, take those hats off, put them in the arms of God, whatever works for you, letting them go, because you did your job, for decades. And now it's time for you to find out what's next for you. And, parenting is creative. It is creative, but it's time, for taking that hat off. And it's a good hat to take off, even as you continue to have a relationship with your children, but they're not your job anymore. You don't
Yeah.
have to wear that hat anymore, and let it be job well done. Tunk, I'm done with that job. Now I can, move forward. What's next on my heart to do?
I love that. That's a great place to leave it. So thank you very much for taking the time and hanging out with me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You're
It
very
was
good.
very, very nice to meet you. And for the listener, Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Hats We Wear.